Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
Sex workers of Reddit. Have any of you ever have a close friend or anyone you normally interact with daily be a surprise customer? What was the experience like? And how did it affect your interactions with them? I was in the process of booking with a sex worker and she sent me a few face pics that she didn't post in her ad. That's when I realized she was actually my cousin. I politely told her that I couldn't meet and never said anything to anyone, including her. Not a SW, but I was in a lifestyle site that was pretty much local to my state. My cousins who were on there wanted to exchange photos. Their initials, age and location concluded that it was them. I just blocked them from contacting me. Other way around. When I turned 22 or 23 for my birthday, we went out drinking and ended up at a strip club. Stripper was making her rounds on stage to everyone sitting at the pit. She jumped on me and says my name excitedly. Only then I realized it was an employee of mine. Made sense why she couldn't work nights. Edit, I was a manager at a restaurant and had like 15 employees at the time. Was not a big-time businessman at 22. I was at a lifestyle club and hung out with the couples that I did the club orientation with. The guy of one of the couples ran into the secretary at his work and she was in a fishnet body stocking. I don't know how that next Monday went. Lol, I'm sure they were discreet. Attending a bachelor party a long time ago. The stripper came in, said hello, and went to the bathroom to fix herself up. She peeked out the door and called one of them over. Turns out, she went to high school with us. A couple of years younger. She called a friend to replace her and she left. My mom was a stripper when I was in elementary school. A 22-year-old guy came in and paid for a lap dance and my mom recognized his last name and asked if he knew Ruth. I have no earthly idea why she would ask him given what she suspected. He got weirded out and said that Ruth was his mom and my mom said that his mom was her daughter's third-grade teacher. He then begged her not to tell his mom where he was. Apparently my mom just laughed and said she didn't want her daughter's teacher knowing that she was there either. I hated that teacher. She was such a jerk to me because we were poor and my mom always dressed slutty. I'm glad her kids weren't as uptight as she was. My much younger brother was getting married. Had a bachelor party at a strip club with a dozen of so high school friends. After about an hour there, a rather ordinary-looking stripper comes on stage, takes off her top and our tables of guys goes wild, standing and applauding and hollering. I have no idea what is going on. The stripper looks through the stage lights. Her eyes get really big. She grabs her top and runs off stage to the back. Bouncers come running over to our table, thinking we're starting trouble. Nope. It turns out all of the guys in his high school class had a history class with her a few years back. She later came out and talked with us. Said she never thought she'd see someone, let alone 12, she knew it was in the next town over. I was a stripper back in the day. Halfway through a stage show realized that my flatmate's brother and his friends were there. That's how I was outed. Lol. Nothing much changed. I was not a sex worker at all, but I was a fine art model for a college for a while. There were so many people that I went to high school with that entered those classes over the 2 years I worked there. Usually they wouldn't say anything and I wouldn't say anything and I would just get naked and pose for 3 hours lol. Sometimes we would chat after. But sometimes we would ignore each other and pretend it didn't happen. In college one of my girlfriend's suitemates used to model nude for the art classes. Fast forward about 8 years. I went to a bachelor party for a friend and we all went to a strip club. One stripper came out wearing the naughty schoolgirl outfit and I recognized her as my girlfriend's suitemate. As I was turning to tell my friend, the groom, that I knew her, he turned to me and said he knew her. Turns out that when he managed a restaurant, she was one of his servers. His brother thought this was hilarious and paid her to do a lap dance for my friend. She had a great figure. But my friend never took his eyes off hers to where she would see him looking at her body. Even when she turned her back to him, he looked at the back of her head because he felt so uncomfortable. Kinda, sorta along the same lines. I guess. Once a friend wanted me to go to a strip club with him located outside a small town in Alabama. A really young looking girl got on the stage and he told me, "Look at her. Isn't she the prettiest thing you've ever seen?" I said, "Yeah, but she seems like she's too young to be working here." "Don't worry. She's 18. "How do you know?" I asked. "She's my niece." I felt uncomfortable after that. Up here. And wow. Just wow. I was not expecting my post to get as much attention as it did. As a matter of fact, I thought it was such a throwaway comment that it didn't occur to me to even follow up on it. But to address all the comments and messages I've gotten because of it, it happened in a small club way out in the county outside a town named Harvest. Allah. I don't know why it's so important to folks to know that unless they are expecting to go there and see the girl for themselves, fat chance of that happening. It was about 10 years ago, so I seriously doubt she would still be there. Another thing, so many are casting doubt about his character or the nature of his relationship with the girl. Trust me, his tone was that of a proud uncle, not a dirty lusty one. You would have to know the area. Meth and opioids have decimated rural Alabama to the point that it's refreshing to find a hound person that is healthy and making an honest living. Besides that, I had known him for years. You will not find a more religious, God-fearing person. Somewhat related, me and buddy Tom go to this sleazy strip club in different part of town. As soon as we walk in, he sees bartender he went to high school with, who say, "Tom, you perv. What are you doing here?" Not a sex worker, but found out a girl from high school that I had a crush on was a stripper. It was my buddy's bachelor party. We load up in a van and head about an hour away to a better strip club. We get in and settle at a table. About 30 minutes in, I get a tap on the shoulder and this sexy ass chick hops in my lap. She calls me by the nickname I had in high school and hugs me. She was always tomboyish in high school. Never wore makeup. Always competed well in gym. Kinda nerdy, quiet, and reserved, but always very pretty if you thought about it. I didn't recognize her for a full minute. It was a fun reunion. It was a full nude spot and she gave no fucks during her stage performance. Really seeing everything. I really should have tried to pursue it in HS. But I was a dumbass back then. TLDR, she was a stripper and gave one hell of a show. Not a sex worker, but know a couple current, former who have worked in brothels. And they could see clients when they entered and choose not to come meet them if they recognized them or if they just didn't feel like working at that moment. So it didn't usually happen. But on the other hand, a friend of mine slept with another friend of mine in exactly this way. She didn't mind him knowing and he didn't mind paying. I'm a stripper. My friend's dad came in. I hadn't seen him or my friend since high school. I accidentally asked him for a lap dance before I could tell who it was. He said no and I realized who it was as I walked away. He came in a few more times and avoided eye contact with me. When I was on stage, he would look away. Another story, my first day as a stripper, I saw two guys from my high school. We chatted. Then they both paid for lap dances. There was a girl I went to high school with who was basically a walking stereotype. She fit so well into the archetypal, ditzy blonde mold that you might swear it was an act if you didn't know better. She was also fucking mean. This girl was a power bitch and wasn't really nice to anybody as far as I'm able to remember. People orbited her because she was hot. And had everything. She never really bothered me because I did my best to be invisible. But the handful of interactions I ever had with her left me feeling unpleasant. Turns out she wound up being a pretty lucrative stripper later in life. I bought a lap dance from her, and while being nice as part of the job, it really did feel like in those brief few minutes that she did have a genuine personality shift. She was way more laid back. You could even hear it in her voice. She even commented about how she wasn't a bitch like I used to be. And I have nicer tits. It was a genuinely fun interaction. She seemed happier in comparison to the person I remembered. I didn't have a surprise customer. But I do have friends that turned into customers as well. Mostly for just pictures, but I do have the occasional hotel date with some of them. They're all pretty chill about it actually. When I was a cam girl I would have many guys message me saying they were my cousin or something. They were not. Just trying to play out a fetish and I wasn't into it. So then one day a guy, in the main chat, said that he knew me and his name was AJ, fake name. I was like, yeah right, I've only ever known one AJ. If it's true what's my name? And sure enough he put my real first name right there in the chat. We were in youth group in church together almost a decade before that. He became a regular. Was in RA in college and had a pair of residents on my wing who were both cam girls. Found out from rumors that were eventually confirmed when I had to help both of them get back up to their room after calling the paramedics because they were passed out drunk outside our residence hall. Came into their room and saw the camera set up. Dildos. And lingerie sets, pieces, just laying out in the open. I also found out that night that they had a pet kitten in the room. Another rumor I heard about them that ended up being true but also heard they abused it pretty bad. Poor thing. Anyways, as we made it up to their wing, one of the girls came to just as we entered their room and tried to play with the pet kitten. She rolled off the bed from her side, stumbled across the room in just a few steps, and ended up falling face first into the makeshift litter box they had set up for their cat. Cat shit and cat litter flung everywhere. Our campus PD was so confused when they showed up to find sex toys and cat litter everywhere. Their dorm room nearly looked like a crime scene. What a time college was. What a time. Edit, yes, paramedics were present too. I just happened to escort them to their beds and lay them on their sides until they arrived along with our campus PD. I had a classmate who was a stripper and she was very open about loving it when people she knew came to see her at work and let her dance for them. She thought it was intimate in a fun, friendly way. I went through this from the other angle. Back in college my fiancé was out of town with her mother. I was gifted a ticket to the gentleman's club across the highway from the college in town and figured this to be the best weekend to give it a shot. Long story short, about the third girl to come out dancing was doing the whole haired swirly thing and looked down and then whipped her head up, hair back, and we locked eye contact. At the same time we both said, "Don't tell less than fiancé greater than." Yeah, my fiancé's best friend was a stripper and nobody knew. I had a friend who was a lifestyle dome. For those unfamiliar with BDSM lingo, a female dominant, not professionally, just personally for fun. She is into a lot of freaky stuff. But working in the public, she is very secretive about her identity. No pictures of herself online. And very cautious before meeting anyone. Well, she has had guys message her asking her for some pretty nasty stuff. Like bottling her piss and selling it to them. Or even making a shit sandwich on one occasion. Yes, an actual shit sandwich. Well, the fucked up part is, she messages with these guys. And they, without her asking, reveal all sorts of personal details about themselves. Like where they live or work. And they would send her photos of themselves. On more than one occasion she has run into one of them at work. And they had no idea it was her. She recognized them and think to herself, this guy that begged me to make him lick his own cum off my feet. And he has no idea who the fuck I am. It would just make her feel even more powerful. Although she remained perfectly professional in their interactions. But may have acted a little bitchier than she normally would because she knew they liked it. Edit, for the record. She never did, sold any of these things. They were just requested by people she was chatting with. She is not comfortable with these things. Like the shit sandwich. But it doesn't stop people from making these requests. I don't really qualify as a sex worker. I'm a guy who fucks women on camera for porn producers, so I'm not paid and I don't have customers. But one time I showed up to a shoot for a blowbang and ran into the guy who owned and operated the CrossFit place I went to. We acknowledged the connection on the set and performed our roles but basically never spoke of it again and resumed our normal trainer-customer dynamic after that. He was married at the time but I think they were open, not that it was any business of mine. I had a brief stint as a bachelorette party stripper a couple of years back. On another state, I worked through an agent who does my client filtering. I was hired by a lady named Tori. Wow, what a coincidence, I said. My childhood friend, with the same name, was also getting married. I parked my car, boarded the venue, and wore my costume, which involves a full face mask. Long story short, same person, and the room was full of familiar faces. I managed to finish my routine with my mask on. Got out of the venue as soon as I can, thinking I dodged a bullet. Then I remembered my back tattoo. Woke up with 50+ messages the next morning. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.